Hi, Katrina here at Crossroads, our wonderful new store. And today I'm starting the first companion piece to my blog, which is called Witch at the Crossroads. And this is the witch who is at the crossroads. So today my guest is my wonderful husband, Eric. Eric, come sit with me. So this week, what I wrote about, and he has not read that blog. You guys may have, and it's at crossroadsoccult.com/witch. And so you may have read the blog. He hasn't read the blog yet. So what I'm going to do is talk about the premises of what I discussed in the blog, and you're going to give your spontaneous responses. And we don't rehearse, and he hasn't read it, and so you're going to get to see how he thinks and how he works. Because one of the coolest things, and we've been together for 22 years now, is that he processes magic and actually the entire world completely differently than I do. So you'll get to see his responses, which may contradict mine, but both are enormously smart.
They're guaranteed to contradict hers. So.
You see what he just contradicted me to say that it'll contradict. So anyway, in upcoming videos to this channel, you're going to see a lot of my wonderful husband, because he's so much a part of what I do magically and now financially, as it turns out. But he is also Ananda Manana on the YouTubes, and you may have seen his videos, and I'll link them down below in the comments about how to make 7 African powers powder.
We have smudging techniques on there.
The sweat lodge.
The demonstration of the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
It is.
And just a few other things. There'll be more coming though.
Yep. Good. He's hella smart. Anyway, so what we're going to discuss today is one of your least favorite people, I believe, actually. And you don't even know what the blog post is about, I don't think. I don't remember if I told you.
I don't think so.
Okay, so way back, ironically, when we first got together, or after we'd actually been married for a couple of years by this point, in '99, so when our son was born, Phil McGraw, Dr. Phil, published a book called Life Strategies. And it really was life-changing for me, because I was working through a lot of pain, a lot of struggle when you came into my life like an angel and helped me heal. But I had trouble getting perspective on things, and something about these 10 life laws that he talked about really gave me a framework to heal and to put things into good, solid perspective. And one of the things I've always admired most about you is that you're very realistic. You're very cut and dried and direct, and just a no bullshit kind of guy. And so that's what appealed to me about this too. And so I was really eager to get your input on these. And we're going to take these from a magical perspective. So when you're working magic, or using magic, say in the cusp framework, to try to make your life better, how do these premises apply? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the life law. You tell me what you think about it, and then I'm going to tell you what Dr. Phil said the strategy for that is, and we'll see how they compare. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the Life Strategies book. I remember Relationship Rescue was another one.
He was very smart. He still is very smart.
Now, I didn't actually read these books. I actually know more about Dr. Phil from Ron White.
Oh, stop! I'm kidding.
If you don't know the relationship between Dr. Phil and Ron White, just Google. I'm sure you can find the YouTube of Ron White telling his joke about partying on Dr. Phil's yacht. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the life laws,
life laws,
I don't recall.
Smart stuff coming up. Yeah, okay, so here's one you're gonna like, and I want you to think about this globally to people, but also in the magical community.
Okay.
I think this is you're gonna enjoy this life law number 1. Okay. You either get it or you don't.
You either get it or you don't. Okay, you're asking me what I think about that?
What do you think about that premise? Like, when you think about all the people we know in the magical community and all the people we know in generally, like, there's some that get it, and there's some that just don't. How do you feel about that?
What I really think about that is, well, for one thing, the whole process of getting it, I don't believe that can be taught. Okay, I think a person is born with some kind of understanding, whether they're looking at the world, the processes of the world, other people, how they think, how they feel, how they respond to them. They're either on an empathic wavelength with that person, being able to see from their perspective and what they're thinking, and how they're perceiving what you are saying or doing, or you're not on that wavelength. That's really it. That's the getting it or not. And actually, it's funny you mention that, because I believe that may be the one part of that book that I do remember.
Yeah.
Him talking about. He talked about him and his buddies getting pulled over by a cop.
Yeah. Yes.
And the cop pulling them out.
That was a great story.
And it was, if you haven't read the book, it's just a quick little thing. You know, they get pulled over by the police. I don't know if they were drunk or what, but 4 of them get pulled out of the car. The cop starts asking them questions. Now, this cop is a no bullshit kind of cop. And his buddy, trying to act the fool and pop off at the mouth to this cop, just didn't get it. Okay? And the cop showed him quite violently just how he didn't get it. Well, Dr. Phil realized that he was one of the people that did get it at that time and was a better man for it.
I do remember that story.
And much more physically healthy on that night for sure.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Phil's strategy for you either get it or you don't doesn't take your worldview of some people just are never going to get it. Or rather, you know, are just born in a way that they're not going to get it.
Right. Dr. Phil makes his money from instruction.
So his strategy is become one of those who gets it.
Right.
Now, I understand that to some degree, and I agree with you and I agree with him, because there was a time in my life I could not get it. I wasn't going to get it. I had to grow into becoming a person who gets it. And sometimes you got to get knocked around a little bit to understand the game. And that's just it, is what I put in my blog post is life really is a game.
I think
there's a game out there in the world that you have to win.
To more elucidate what I'm saying is, I don't think it's as cut and dried as if you don't get it, you're never going to get it, and that's all there is to it. It's more of you either possess the aptitude to get it.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay?
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
And if you do, you can build on that and learn. You now open yourself up, and you're allowed, or you're in a state of mind that you're able to learn from the environment around you to get it more.
Yeah.
Okay? But then there are just some of those people who just don't and won't and will never and are just closed off to the getting it, totally live within themselves, and that's just kind of the end of their story. So
bless their hearts.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah. So, now life law number 2. And I know that you have some unique perspectives on this that are not necessarily shared by the new agey crowd, I would say it. You create your own experience. How do you feel about the words, you create your own experience?
You create your own experience. Well, you know, in some ways, in the short term, that could be pretty obvious. I mean, you know, going back to the police example, I mean, if you want to have an experience of jail, well, that's not very difficult to accomplish. I think that most people in the United States can figure out how to create that pretty quickly. But as far as how you conduct your life and taking responsibility for the things that are going to occur or that are more likely to occur in the future, it is as if you are a farmer. And the things that you want to reap in the future, you have to prepare for and sow today. And the more diligently and focused you work on the things you want to bring into manifestation, the more likely that they're going to occur in the future. So in that way, you do create your own reality, your own experiences. I mean, we all heard the old talks from every parent out there, you know, study hard in school, go to a good university, study hard there, graduate with honors, get a good job, have a happy life. That's pretty simplified, but in real practice, if you did do those things as a kid and stayed out of trouble and just said no to drugs, you know, then at least your experience would be one of not jail, for one, and probably a healthier bank account. So that does play out in the mundane and the magical as well. As far as the magical perspectives go, are we getting into that?
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
All of that.
The farming analogy there is one that we do follow as spiritual farmers in our cusp philosophy. And it is all about the mental focus and concentration on goals you want to bring into your manifestation, into your life, preparing that way, planting the seed, fertilizing it, care for it, through focused magical intent of your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your heart. Of course, to not just be in the mind, but translate to the hands as well as you're developing these things and causing them to be brought into reality. So, you know, following that harvest cycle.
So what Phil says about that is acknowledge and accept accountability in your life. Absolutely,
absolutely. If the crops fail, or if what you're trying to manifest doesn't make itself manifest. There's usually a reason, as long as it's not, weather related or anything like that. There's usually something that you could have done or should not have done to make that happen. Of course, we have everything codiciled with respect to manifestation with the idea of the greatest good. And we go into that a lot in our books and our teachings and lectures as well. But generally, you are the ultimate arbiter of your life. It's all about you and what you do. Just right.
And like we've said so many times, at critical points in our lives, it comes down to a choice.
Right.
So here's the life law number 3. And if you need me to expound on this a little bit, let me know so that you know exactly what it's going through, because it's kind of simple. People, when you come to the heart of it, people do what works. Meaning they're getting a payoff in some way, even if it creates something negative in their lives. Right. So that's the premise: is people do what works. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a true statement. I think that to an outside observer, someone's actions might seem counterproductive, negative, or damaging, violent, hurtful, or even stupid. But for them, there is some reason that they're doing it. There is some payoff that they're getting. Everyone has a reason. You could look at interviews for some of the most violent offenders out there, or some of the more narcissistic leaders we've had that have driven their country into ruins. They all had a reason. They all thought that they were acting in either self-interest or the misplaced interest of others, or some greater purpose that can or cannot be rationalized to even another human being, but to them they had a reason for doing it, and then in that they felt they were fully justified. So they were getting something from it as proof of the justification. So true statement.
So his strategy for working with that premise, identifying that life law as fact, the strategy for working around that is identify the payoffs that drive your behavior and the behavior of others.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean he didn't mention cusp in there?
No, he didn't. No. So I'm sure he regrets that now. We've got stuff we left out of our books and we're like, oh man, if I.
Well, Dr. Phil's calling us to party on our yacht.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, but we're leaving Ron in Georgia. Okay, so here's another one. I know you'll be on board with this one. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge.
You're asking me if I agree with that statement?
You agree with that statement?
Oh. Of course. I mean, if you don't acknowledge it, it's almost as if it doesn't exist. So,
his strategy is get real with yourself about life and everybody in it. Be truthful about what is not working in your life, and stop making excuses and start making results.
Yeah, this is definitely the first step in the AA or NA program. I mean, if alcohol or drugs is the cause of some of your problems, you must first acknowledge that you are in submission to that power. So that's the first step in changing anything. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, life law number 5. I know you're on board with this one too. Life rewards action. Now, we have lived our lives from that perspective, and a lot of people think that we were just super lucky, to have the life that we have, the relationship that we have, the opportunities that we've had, but they don't stop and think about the fact that we got those because of actions that we took and ways that we were bold and sometimes reckless even. And moving forward, how do you feel about the life rewards action idea?
Well, for us, I would definitely draw the parallel between fortune favors the bold, right? But the idea of action being necessary to bring forth fruit. Again, you could look at the farming analogy. You can sit there and look at your field all day, and eventually the bank is going to come and foreclose on it because you're not able to afford to pay your taxes because you're not growing anything out there. That's your means going away. But for us, the very word karma means action. Okay, and it's through actions, good, bad, or indifferent, that you sow the seeds for future opportunities and future things coming your way, whether spiritually, physically, metaphysically, at all. The actions, you're going to have that equal and opposite reaction. Now, life doesn't usually work exactly the way physics work, physical phenomena, but the premises are the same. What you put out, there's a good chance you're going to receive that in some form. It may not be the form you want or readily identify, or certainly not the time frame you want it. But it is definitely going to come back to you. So good or bad, that action is rewarded in kind. So yeah.
Do you believe in something like the concept of threefold law, or do you think that there is a balance that what you put out there is going to come back to you commensurate to your investment of energy?
You know, I'm kind of torn on that, because the idea of any kind of X-fold law, you know, you've got biblical parts of that as well, references to that, but that something is going to come back and manifest manyfold. It seems from a rational human logical perspective, it seems almost like it would be like an accounting ledger that it would balance. But if you look at every action you take to bring forth life, like plants and trees and things like that, when you plant a seed, what's yielded from that are many thousands of seeds.
Yes, that's true.
Okay,
That's
so
nice.
yeah, you know, that kind of lends some credence to the manifold return. Yeah. So also, I'm kind of in both camps on that.
Well, there's the chemical concept of synergy too, that you can pull.
So, yeah.
Well, just that, even especially with magic, you can pull together two components and
right.
have the outcome be more than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that can also lend to a return that's greater.
Yeah.
And so if you like you look at a tower of blocks, if you pull out that cornerstone, you've only pulled out one block, but you've got the shitstorm that rains down on you.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
So life rewards action. What Phil says is make careful decisions and then pull the trigger. Our decisions have not always been careful. Sometimes they've been very visceral, that this is what we have to do.
Yeah, and right.
And learn that the world couldn't care less about thoughts without action behind them.
Yeah. I mean, until the thoughts become action, it's still within you. So you know, you might have a perspective of, well, God hears me, or the universe hears me, or something like that, and maybe, okay, that's getting a bit esoteric. You know, it might be an individual kind of thing and belief, but in general. Yeah,
but you know, really, that's part of the reason why we conceptualized Cusp.
Yeah, was
because we saw so many people that were willing to do magic, to do spell work, to light a candle, and then sit down and eat Cheetos and wait for the UPS guy to drive up with their magical return. Yeah. Rather than getting out there and doing the work, as above, so below, that backs up the magical process. Right.
That's the whole thing, the whole follow through. You know, as above, so below. Yeah.
So next is this is one I've got to say I don't know exactly where you're going to fall with this. So I'm curious to see what your answer is.
Did you know where I was going to fall with all the other ones?
I kind of did. This one is, there is no reality, only individual perception. Do you believe there's a baseline reality that happens, or is everything purely based on the experience of the person? You're going to egg me, aren't you? You're going to go with the egg concept.
No. But there is some overtones of pure solipsism in that statement, and solipsism being that you believe that you are the only observer and the only real free agent entity, and everything else is kind of, maybe you're the dreamer of the dream and everything else is the dream, that type of thing.
And the music maker.
Yeah. Where's my guitar?
Whip that
out. But there have also been some interesting physics experiments, the double slit experiment being one, where sometimes light particles, and of course light being the medium with which we see, being both a wave and a particle at the same time. And then experiments derived off that can show that light will only become a particle with its position known upon the observation of a human being. Now, how weird is that?
That's weird.
Right? That's really weird.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so to talk about your reality being subject to your individual perspective, well, we do have some baselines, of course. If it's 100 degrees outside, the general person will say, hey, it's pretty hot. Maybe not so hot to some that are used to it, but more uncomfortable to others. But really within you is where you're processing all the information that's coming from the outside phenomenal world. Okay, and also your mind and your perspective is processing the feelings and emotions that come within your heart and your spirit and all that. So as far as the crunching of the numbers internally, the processing of the information, the storage of the information, what you are going to recall from, say, a particular place or an event or a person, all of those things are purely subject to your perspective, and does certainly inform your reality, okay, or create a framework or structure in which to operate in your reality in this shared reality, if that makes sense.
So what Phil says is the strategy for managing that life law is identify the filters through which you view the world, meaning your conditioning that's been imposed upon you through things that you've gone through in your life, and acknowledge your history without being controlled by it.
Okay, yeah.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are controlled by how you were shaped and brought up, then how are you to progress and experience new things from that? Because a lot of the control mechanisms that are put on us, especially when we're younger, are things that are going to prevent you from experiencing. Those things are either unlawful or you just have this. They're bad. They're classified, bad by your parents or family members, things like that. Your schools, So, how hard is it to, in this country to really, give a serious study into, atheism, communism, socialism, all the isms there that our government says are bad, and that's hard to do from that conditioning. So.
Well, and what we see a lot of in our practice with healing people and counseling people is people who live in little boxes where they say, well, that's just how I am, or I'm a Capricorn, what do you expect?
Sure.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they limit themselves.
I'm set in my ways.
Right. Or they're so obsessed with what their parents did to them or what some enemy did to them 3 years ago and how bad that was, that they don't let themselves grow out and away from that definition. And so we read Phil's part of that. So here's another one that kind of goes along with that. He says, this is number 7, so we're almost there. Life is managed. It is not cured.
Yeah. Well, life's not a disease.
And that's exactly what I said.
Okay.
I said that too.
Did you really?
I did. You'll see it, yeah.
Yeah, life's not a disease, but it is terminal. Okay.
Okay. Fair. Help me on that, please. Don't leave me hanging. Thank you.
We are, we all approach the grave, and we do it alone. Okay, and that's a really scary thing for some, maybe not so much for others. I don't know. I just know what I'm about with that. And the different trials and tribulations that life presents, the different phases and rites of passage. Going through the traditional flow of things. Marriage and family and. Businesses and finance and all the minutiae of day-to-day existence as well, along with the diseases and different issues that crop up. You want to have a good treatment plan.
Exactly.
For that. You want to have almost as if you're, a general physician, and it's like, well, okay, this is how you're going to start, this is where you're likely to end up. We want to try to think about the things that might be best to do or to focus on or to practice or whatever it might be, to perform in your life. That's going to be most conducive to the phase of the life you're in, whether it's age or mileage, okay? And just apply that as I guess you can call it a treatment plan.
Yeah. And I took the manager perspective. So I kind of took it from the perspective of a life manager. That if you evaluate your life up to this point and consider that you have been your own life manager, would you hire you or would you fire you?
Right.
Have you done a good job or have you not done a good job?
Yeah.
And that's really what you take to the grave, isn't it?
It is. And, it serves a person well to be able to understand at what point should you fire that person and do it sooner rather than later.
And that's a concept people aren't good with because of ego. We always want to believe that somebody else is responsible for what befalls us in our life and to blame it on others. But when we really look at our own accountability in our lives, what people don't see is the power that it gives you. If you're not at the mercy of other people, if you are the one in charge of your life and you're the one accountable for your life, you can make any changes you want to.
Yeah, definitely. And then also there's the thing of, well, I know what's best for me. right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, shutting yourself off to possibly very excellent outside advice is probably not the best thing either.
True,
a good manager,
yes.
a good life manager, is going to take all of the resources at their disposal and put those together and make a, what do you call that?
An audit almost.
Yeah, that works. And just kind of, discard the bad and keep the good, and meld that into something that is going to put you on the path that you're that is best for you. That's most conducive to where you are in your life and what you're doing. So
we get so involved with the flotsam and jetsam of emotion, and how our life is making us feel, and how people are making us feel, and situations are making us feel, that a lot of times we forget to be analytical about our lives and accountability. And
takes both sides.
Yeah. You got to have that debit and credit balance line in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what Phil says about this is, learn to take charge of your life and hold on. This is a long ride, and you are the driver every single day.
Yeah.
You down with Phil on that?
I'm down with that. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the next one, and I know that you and I have had some experience with this. I mean, we've been together for 22 years, and so we've dealt with a lot between each other and within our family. We've got 6 kids, and although those are not all, some of them are your stepkids that you inherited, you did raise. We were involved in the upbringing of quite a few of them.
I had a household of 8 on sergeant pay. So,
yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
And
I get to claim that.
You do.
Okay.
You can. We're gonna make you a little button.
Yeah. Right.
And we deal. You and I, in our day-to-day life, deal with a lot of people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of experience with life law number 8. And I want to see how you feel about that. We teach other people how to treat us. What do you think about that?
Absolutely the case. Yeah, when, especially when you first meet someone and they're getting their initial impressions of you, that's really the moment to show them what you're about, where you're at in life, and you don't have to explain anything to them. It can be done with just your demeanor, how you speak, how you look, the way your eyes fix upon them, the eloquence of diction, whatever it might be, to give them an idea of how should I be best approaching this person to get what I want from them.
Yeah.
Okay? Because everybody wants something. I mean, it may not be a tangible thing, but it might just be a position in your life. Or maybe I want you to feel about me a certain way. How can I best do that? But in how you are to them is how you treat them, what is okay and what is not okay to do. That's a lot harder with family.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely a lot harder with bosses, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And even subordinates, even employees.
You want them to like you. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be their friends. The military is really bad for that. I mean, you can't be the buddy, drinking at the bar every day, and then order these people to go lay down their lives for some mission objective they may or may not agree with, or may not even understand.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balance, but insofar as daily, regular life goes, if people are treating you poorly, it's because you've allowed that.
That's true.
You've allowed that to happen. Yeah.
And so the first time that something, I don't want to say gets value, but you have an experience with somebody where they're treating you in a way that just isn't acceptable to you. It's so important that and you don't have to be an asshole about it, but you can just say, you know what, I'm gonna stop you right there because I'm not comfortable with that. We're not gonna go there. You can say that in words, you can say that in a look, but there's an energy that you put out that either allows that or doesn't allow that, or there's words or actions you put out, or you punch in the face, whatever.
Right. And even as far as being an asshole, there may be times where you do want a certain person or a group of people to perceive you as a total immovable hard ass, a prick even. That may serve your advantage, and there are ways to to make that happen as well. You don't need everyone in the world to love you and fall at your feet. I know you do.
But don't you think that especially when relationships are new, and even if you really, really like somebody, there's a lot of posturing that happens. There's a lot of push and pull and finding the dynamic of the relationship.
That can take a long time. Yeah.
I think it especially is jacked up with kids.
Yeah.
Because you so want your kids to love you, but you really want to be that strong parent that makes the good decisions. And kids are not always down with strong parents making good decisions.
No, not usually. There's I've seen one or two. Maybe. So.
Yeah. So you would agree then that people, we do instruct people how to treat us, and if they are on more than once treating us poorly, then that's on us. Is that correct?
That is, yeah. If it's become a habit of a person treating you poorly, that's probably more your fault than theirs. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you have somebody who isn't reading those stop signs or isn't hearing you when you're saying absolutely not, this is the deal breaker for me, people also have to have basically the balls to walk away.
Then it needs to be the deal breaker for you.
Yeah, it needs to truly be a deal breaker.
Turn around and go, yeah,
right,
definitely. Yeah.
Or you have to renegotiate your standards of how you're going to be treated, and agree that okay, you're going to do this. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what Phil says about this is own rather than complain about how people treat you. Learn to renegotiate your relationships to have what you want.
Right. Yeah.
And you have a feeling about the initial. The negotiating is more important than renegotiating.
Yes, right. Yeah. Negotiate it prior to from the outset, and that'll probably limit the probability of having to renegotiate their relationship later on when you're now entrenched in a dynamic that has a certain inherency,
right,
and is difficult to extricate yourself from or change in any way. Definitely.
And really, what we see sometimes are people that renegotiate that contract after many years of a particular dynamic, where one person's been festering in resentment, and the other person may or may not realize that's
been a problem all
along.
That's
been a problem,
yeah.
Or they know about it and just don't care that the payoff is worth whatever this pain this other person's having.
Sure.
And so you get this other person who's attempting to change a dynamic that's long existing, and that's tough.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it sure is. So, life law number 9 is there's power in forgiveness. How do you feel about forgiveness?
Well, forgiveness is something, to me, it is an unburdening of your soul.
Right.
Okay, for a wrong done to you by another person. I think it's best to forgive a person to God or whoever your creator might be, almost for your own absolution. But for the other person that did the wrong, I never recommend, and I never do, forgive them to their face. Okay, that's something...
Well, unless they come to you.
If they ask for it, if they acknowledge that they've done a wrong to you, have the awareness, the self-awareness to know that you were basically done dirty or hurt by them unnecessarily, or just even hurt by them, even if it was necessary, it's still hurt, and they're aware of it, and they feel bad for it, they want some type of cathartic action, and they want to ask you for that, well then that's okay. But to come to them and say, hey, you did me dirty, but now I'm going to forgive you.
So they're not in that receptive place then. Because
I don't think that's something that they're going to hear. It's not going to provide the same unburdening of their soul that it would for yours when you truly and heartfeltly forgive someone. And that's kind of the way I've approached that. It's all about taking the roadblocks away from your progression, your spiritual progression, unburdening the soul, getting that weight off of you so you can move forward, and not be stuck with the negative emotions and feelings that were, that necessitated the forgiveness in the first place. That's really what that's about. Yeah.
Now, we believe strongly in the power of energy, and that feelings have energy, intention has energy. Do you think if you're in a dynamic with someone, even if it happened years and years ago, where you're just on the hook with resentment and anger and all of the things that come along with being wronged, even if you're not in contact with that person, do you believe that if you forgive somebody, that it creates an energetic impact for them in any way, or do you think it's all just on the one that's doing the forgiving?
I think it's easier for a person to have malintent or at least bad feelings toward another person when they know the grudge is still held.
So it's a bond between
maybe
people.
It may be, it could be something like that. So when you do go through the act of forgiveness and unburden yourself of that, perhaps it does, create some kind of energy to them that says, hey, this is all you now. All the negativity surrounding this is just you.
So just basically less ill will out there in the world.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, if that somehow leads them to trying to right that wrong, or at least address, you know, the hurt or the situation that, you know, that caused the issues, then that's that would be a good thing. I can't say I have any real evidence of that, but those are our beliefs.
Yeah.
That something like that could happen via that mechanism. Yeah.
Do you think, I'm just curious, do you think there's anybody in your life, and you don't name names, but do you think there's anybody that you could not forgive?
Oh, no, I'm going to put everybody on blast right now. No. No, nobody's beyond.
I don't necessarily mean to their face, but I mean...
yeah, either or.
Yeah.
Either way. No, nobody's beyond that. I don't think so.
Oh, no. Cool. Okay. So, Phil says, open your eyes to what anger and resentment are doing to you, and take your power back from those who have hurt you. Yep. So we're a big proponent of the power eggs idea. And so basically what he's saying is that if you have not forgiven somebody, they have an edge of power over you. Do you think that's true?
And that goes back to pretty much what I just said. That, as long as you keep that bond, you're holding that grudge, you're angry about it, you know, it's it does give more power to the situation than would be there without that, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we're on number 10 now.
All right.
All right, you ready?
Good, 'cause we're almost out of film.
Film. Yeah, the film canister is getting low. So this is one that I know that you're down with. This is going to resonate with you because we've done it in ritual so many times. And it's part of our construct of cusp is you have to name it to claim it. How do you feel about that?
Right. Thoughts are completely ephemeral, you know, and they're a precursor to language, you know, usually involving a lot of feelings, ambiguous ideas, concepts. If you are going after something in life, generally you're looking for real, tangible results.
Yes,
and to do that, you have to objectify what that is. You have to identify it. Give yourself a focus. Name it and claim it. I mean, that's really what it's about. You know, when we do our cycles, the thinking period happens, you know, largely between Yule and spring equinox, and by that time, you have really finished the concept, and you are now on to the active planting phase, and you need to identify what it is you're going to plant. We do it physically in the form of seeds, of course. Well, this is corn, this is beans, this is tobacco, this is whatever. So you know what you're gonna be focused on bringing into the harvest at the end of the cycle. Yeah, you have to do that.
Okay. So what Phil says is get clear about what you want and then take your turn. And what we see a lot is people who work magically or energetically for something, and then they just sit down. They don't actually get out there and work in a chord and do the... It's kind of like that old story about the guy that was praying to win the lottery, and finally God said, "You got to buy the ticket, Joe.
Right.
You got to do your part." And it's not like the UPS guy is just going to drive up to your door with. It'd be cool if the UPS guy came right now, wouldn't it?
He just came about 5 minutes ago, so we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but if he came up with a whole box of happiness for you, or you know, your soulmate on the back of the truck, but you have to actually get out there and do things. In most cases, don't you think, to make...
It's you can think all the deep thoughts you want, but the taking of the turn is what gets you on the ride, okay? And it's on the ride through your actions that the opportunities to bring about those things come. I mean, you know, if you want to be anything, you know, in the world, a musician, whatever. I mean, you know, you've got to practice and play out and go to gigs and meet people and talk to artists and talk to you know, studio execs and things like that. Meet these people, make those opportunities available to you, so that when it is time to take an action that's going to directly lead to your success, you're already there.
Right.
You know, you gotta take it. Can't wait for it.
Step up and take
you can't wait for it. You gotta take it.
Other people can help you or encourage you, but they can't do it for you. You've got to have the willingness to step up.
They can't do it for you. You know, it's. So
you got to name it. You got to go get it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But magic can create further opportunity and tailor it more to what you're looking for and point you in the right direction. And
magic can get you into a flow state with the energy of that river that is ultimately going toward your greatest good, and being able to give you the presence of mind and the intuition and the empathic responses that are going to let you know that you are doing the right thing, you're in the right place at the right time, you're talking to the right person, you're saying the right things, whatever it might be, you're mailing the right letters. I mean, you're just going to have a sense of these things that I'm doing are in accord with what it is I want to manifest. Without that knowledge of the magical energy that flows toward this greatest good and the things that you want, without that, you are really limited to performing the physical, mechanical actions of raw focus and really puzzling out the physical things you need to do. Whereas with magic, you're going to have a sense, you're going to have that feeling that goes along with it.
Right. So it's part of, it's a tool that you're using in relation to the other things that you're doing to propel life to a place where you're having the quality of life you're looking to have.
Yeah.
And that's also what we see is people who are willing to settle where they are rather than do the work to get up and go for what they really want.
Yeah, the fear of failure is probably one of the big things that hold people back. You know, but you won't meet a single successful person that doesn't know what failure is.
That's true.
You know, and how to get back up and go for it again.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen if you fail? You're going to die? You're going to die anyway, right? I mean, that's...
But not today.
Well, maybe. You don't know that.
Maybe.
I mean, you're going to die anyway.
It's going to be really scary if that happens, right?
So, you know, yeah, sometimes you just got to say, you know, screw it. I mean, I failed at this 8 times. I'm going to go for a 9th.
9? Yeah, lucky 9. So,
yeah.
So, you got anything to add onto that, or any thoughts on? Do you want to look at the list again?
No, I didn't know Dr. Phil was such a smart guy.
He's a really smart guy, and like I was saying, this book came out in 1999. It's still for sale. It's called Life Strategies: Doing What Works and Doing What Matters. And this came out at a time when he didn't have his show yet. He was a guest on Dr. Phil's show, like Iyanla Van Zandt and Gary Zukav and some of the other real motivators and leaders of that time. And I saw a couple of shows with him, and I was just blown away. He made so much sense. It was just it cut through a lot of the psychobabble and just really hit home on some wisdom.
I'll agree for the early stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it
for
very
the early
much.
Stuff,
And this was a life changer for me. Like I said, it gave me a framework that I really needed at the time. It gave me a ladder to climb out of the hole I'd been in for a while, and I really have used it ever since. So I just want to share it with everybody and get your perspective on it. And I appreciate you doing that with me and being a willing spirit. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So again, we're here at Crossroads Metaphysical Store in Shingle Springs, California. And my name's Katrina Rasbold. This is my husband Eric. We teach classes here. A lot of them are free, and we have online classes as well. And we also have a lot going on here at the store. In addition to selling the Two Sisters Botanica products, we give consults and things like that. So look us up. It's crossroadsoccult.com, and twosistersbotanica.com is where you can find us. And like I said, I will link Eric's YouTube channel in the description as well, so you can find him. He's got some wonderful videos out there, some in Spanish and some in English. And that's what's going on. We're going to be posting a video about every week or so, unless the store just gets so busy that we just can't do that. But we're going to do our best to get the videos out there.
We'll find the time.
We'll make time. Once a week, and that will usually accompany a blog post that I'm doing as well. And the link for that blog is crossroadsoccult.com/witch. And it's for Witch at the Crossroads, because this witch is at the crossroads. Yeah.
All right.
So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you again.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Let's hope that stayed doing its thing. Yeah, it did.